everyone. Welcome to another episode of Diary of a Professional. This is Ashley here,
This is Lou.
and we have a lovely guest with us, Latoya, who is a dance professional and dance education specialist. But before we get into all of that, let's go into gratitudes. I'll go first and discuss what I'm grateful for this week. I'm grateful to be a nurse. And I say this because they've been talking about, oh, it's the year of the nurse. It's the year of the nurse. We're so great. Ray. Tay. And I'm happy now they're shedding light of what we're dealing with in the hospitals.
In the profession.
The patient ratio, the pay that is not paying. So to see my fellow nurses out there striking, on strike,
Beautiful.
it's
Love
a beautiful thing. You know, it's a beautiful thing to really try to get what we deserve and really putting out these well-known hospitals in New York City out on blast pretty much. So, yes, I'm grateful for that.
Yes.
We will get our money, what we deserve.
Trust, if nurses are doing it, it's real because we put up with a lot of shit.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah, shout out to them. I guess in the same vein, I am grateful for, of course, everything could be better, but right now, girl, I haven't been to work since I don't know when. And my paycheck is still looking the same,
We love it here.
I'm a little under the weather and I'm still covered and I don't got to think about nothing. It's just a little text. Yeah, I won't be there. Cool, feel better. I've heard horror stories of people who they literally feel like their job is on the line or they're questioned. Like, you can't ask nobody why they're not showing up. I told you I'm not going to be there. And that's just that. So I'm thankful I don't have to deal with those kind of stresses because, listen, there's enough stress to go around. Y'all not going to do that. Mm-mm. No.
I love it for you.
No, I hear that. And, get better in peace with no stress,
Right. That's the last thing you need.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly.
People deserve the right to rest. And I don't think that that's something that we need to be debating with folks. And when people do it, it just feels like the audacity. Please, child, the audacity. I shouldn't have to explain that I am not well or that I will not be present. Why shouldn't be any of your business? Like, I could just need a mental health day. Why do I have to explain that to you? Like, I just
talk about it.
I can't be my full self in your workspace. That should be acceptable. That should be okay.
And think about it. With the whole past, Damar Hamlin thing. I've seen a lot of memes and a lot of posts. They were probably the lowest paid person there was the one who helped bring him back to life. And if nurses don't get paid a lot, trust me, paramedics, bro, we not going to talk about it. And we're the kind of people that they expect us to we've seen deaths and people very sick, and then you just got to go to your next patient or pick up your next assignment or show up the next day like nothing ever happened. That's not normal. Mm-hmm. I hope they fight for mental health days in their contract too, because
I agree.
Yeah.
Preaching.
Yeah.
Preaching.
Yes, onto something better and lighter.
Latoya, please tell us what you're grateful for.
Yeah, so, just a little tidbit. I can identify with a lot of things you guys are saying because I do have some context with healthcare and actually working in healthcare. So we'll talk a little bit about that later. But as for what I'm grateful for the community that I've cultivated, especially throughout this past week and even the past few weeks. I got into a really bad car accident and the entire front end of my car needed to be repaired. And there was all this backed up processing with my car getting fixed because of the holidays and all these things. And the community that I've cultivated has made dealing with that stress so easy. And I'm so grateful for that because a lot of people came through in ways that I didn't anticipate. And so I'm extremely grateful for that folks were like, hey, you need a ride here. It's fine. Hey, we can do a virtual meeting instead. It's fine. Hey, here's $20. Here's $40. Here's this tour. are you okay with your deductible? Like, what do you need right now? And like, just being like, wow, people are showing up for me, especially some of the folks that like I least expected to even be willing to help or contribute to this time of difficulty as I'm like dealing with getting my car back, hopefully tomorrow. So that was a lot. It's a lot. I haven't had my car. Genuinely, I got in a car accident November 27th and haven't seen my car since like November 29th. I saw my car last week and it wasn't done. So here we are. But
All right.
especially this week, my community has shown up for me, and that I'm really grateful for.
That's beautiful. That is so
Right.
beautiful. Because people could have been there for the first week, maybe the second, and then they would have been like, you know what? It's a little too much.
It's a new year.
Good.
It's a new year, and folks are still showing up. I'm like, okay, you really like me. I love me. So,
well, that would just be a testament to who you are, because you know people being their thing. So
yeah, and they be like, okay, you good. So it's been a week, you good, figure it out. So I was like, oh wow, people still care. Okay, I like that. So that's my gratitude statement for the day. But
wow, that's dope. That's dope.
yeah.
And I'm happy you're doing okay too as well.
I know. That was the biggest thing. My car looks. If you saw my car, you'd be like, "How are you okay?" And I was like, I came back unscathed. Like, and I was like, "This is my."
That's a testimony right there.
Girl, I'm gonna have to send you all the pictures because it was bad. It was bad.
Well, let's get into our topic. So Latoya here is a dance professional and dance education specialist, and I wanted to, introduce her to our listeners because we haven't had that many creatives as yet here in the dance realm, and I wanted to get a point of view, especially from her as well. So I'm going to keep it light for the first question and so forth. But how did you get into dance first and foremost?
So I started dancing when I was about 2.5, almost 3 years old. My mom put me in dance because as much as we hate to admit it, she was living vicariously through me. So she didn't have a lot of opportunities to do extracurricular activities when she was growing up. And so she put myself and my siblings all into extracurricular activities at a very young age. So I started at 2.5 at a local dance studio, and I loved it. One of the things I appreciate about my mom is that with each year, I believe it was following age 9, she would always check in and be like, do you enjoy this? Because I don't want you to keep doing this if this is just like me living out my dream right now. And I was like, no, I love this. I want to stay committed. I want to stay involved in dance. And so she was like, okay. Around age 5, I also started doing gymnastics at the same studio space. And so both of those things were simultaneously happening. And I was learning and growing and training in those two facets of physical activity through to high school. In high school, I attended the Greater Hartford Academy of the Arts. It's a performing arts high school here in Connecticut. I went there and I was a dance major. My last year, I double majored in dance and visual art. I did a very special request to the artistic director of the school and was allowed to do that. And then my first year of college, I continued studying dance as well at the collegiate level. So dance has been in my life my whole life. So
it's true to this. I love it.
And true to this, not new to it.
Yes.
So that's how I started.
Wow. Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like you were saying, when I started or I did dance from a young age myself, and I felt like it was because my mom didn't have those opportunities as well to do all those different activities. Mm-hmm. So she would be like, all right, you're going to be doing ballet. You're going to model. You're going to do this. You're going to play the violin. And do all these things. But it's interesting too. My mom used to check in with me as well. Like, do you still like this? Is this your thing? I just want to make sure. I just want to make sure, So I find that interesting. But I also want to get into how has it been for you as a dancer, as a Black woman? Have you met any challenges along the way in particular?
Did you see the breath out? Did you see the breath out? I was like, child. Every step of the way. I'll be honest with you. Every single step of the way. Mm. Every dance space I've been in, being a woman of color, the color of my skin has played a factor. And this is something that I speak a lot about in the work I currently do, but I experienced it firsthand, like how your skin color could really play a role in your route to success, whether how easy or how difficult it can be based on just how you look. So one of the things that is really prominent in the dance community that we don't recognize is that like there's not as many Black and brown women or men that are in the dance community that do like classically trained styles of dance like ballet and jazz. You'll find a lot more of Black and brown folk are involved in hip hop and break dance and all the subcategories that fall beneath that, and ethnic styles of dance like African and or ballroom and salsero and things like that, because those are people of color have originated or gotten credit for those styles of dance. And so as someone who grew up,
love that,
got credit, because that's a whole nother conversation, baby, because
That's a whole other conversation.
everything that's successful, Black people touched it, but we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about that right now because that's not the question. That's not the question. That's not the question. The first studio I grew up in, and I stayed there from like 2.5 years old through high school, like the beginning years of high school, while I was like attending my performing arts high school before I decided to cut ties there. It was a very elderly white woman who was running that studio, and there was always like challenges with me excelling in that space because of the limitations she placed on me. So when she retired and passed her studio down to her grandniece always was like a huge fan of mine. She allowed me to have certain opportunities that other kids already had. So like I didn't start doing competitive dance until I was like 12, because that was the age where there was a transition ownership. And the wonderful woman, her name is Elizabeth. Elizabeth was like, I want to put you in competition. Like, I want to talk to your mom, and was like super excited because I was hindered from doing those things and like getting those opportunities when the original owner was in charge. Ironically, my mom always brings this up because you can see it in pictures of me, like from when I was dancing at that same studio. I was like one of the more talented people, and the original studio owner would place me in the front to like teach the other students how to accomplish these movements that she was trying to convey. But then when it was performance time, I'm in the back row. So just like weird things like that, or like even colorism issues within like costuming or casting, right? So like I can't play a certain role in a dance number because I don't have the aesthetic. I'm too brown skin, or that role is traditionally done by a white young lady. Like if we're doing a Disney or a musical theater kind of, you know what I mean? And this is obviously years and years and years ago. Now we're starting to evolve when you see Little Mermaid and things like that is a woman of color. But in that time, it was like, this is the way it's done, and we're going to honor that. Even with costuming, again, running back to that thought, things like getting suntan tights. Why am I getting suntan tights when I'm a brown girl? It clearly doesn't match my skin tone. Why is it that I have to bring an entire kit of makeup and none of the other girls have to, because they're all the same skin tone? And I know that if you put your stuff on me, my skin's going to be disoriented on stage, right? So like things like that, or like even outside of that studio, carrying over into high school experiences. There were 2 or 3 shows I was cast for where like I had to do my own hair because the stylist didn't know what to do with my hair. There were 2 or 3 shows where like I had to have a separate hairstyle than everyone else in the dance because my hair could not do that. Like my hair was natural and curly, and like you guys want me to have a straightened hairstyle when I'm sweating when I'm dancing. So this is not going to work. So like as much as you want me to have this slick back bun, right now I can't do that for you. I need to do 2 French braids, and that's going to be that. And like having to actually go through the motions during a rehearsal, have my hair come out jacked, and then my mom being like, I told you, to the director, and the director having to compromise. When like we could have saved ourselves from this whole entire rigmarole if we did just understood that I wasn't trying to be different. I was trying to honor that I can't fight that. That's how I'm God-given. That's the way I came in the world, right? I can't give you the aesthetic you want, but you like the idea of me being a part of the piece. You have to pick your battles, baby. Like what? So those challenges, right? All of those things play a role in the way I've had to navigate the dance profession. Even in other Black spaces, like I did a project this past February where it was a Black history. It was supposed to be a Black history project. And I was living in the West Coast at this time. I was living in San Diego. And like if you know anything about San Diego, it's a very white space. And there's not, like, the people of color that are there are very racially ambiguous. And, like, being a part of this project and being the only one that, like, one of two dancers that actually were, like, aesthetically Black. Like, there's undeniably Black, right? And the rest of them having fairer skin, curly hair. And at one point, there was a girl that was a part of the project that wasn't even Black at all. Like, she was a white girl that was just, like, a part of the piece. And then having to navigate being tokenized on the flyer where they use my face to, like, sell the piece. Right? So, like, people don't think that race is a factor in the dance community, and it literally is, like, interwoven in everything that we do, whether it's costuming, casting. It's the way that you're able to rise on the totem pole. It's how you fit into certain spaces. Like, I, again, grew up doing ballet and have done ballet my entire career, but I'm a full-figured woman. Like, I'm not heavy, but I have a big bust. Like, I've always had a big bust. I had puberty real early, and being uncomfortable in my body growing up and not understanding why, and feeling like, why am I always in the back row of this ballet dance? Because I don't fit the aesthetic, but I have the ability. And so all of those things, race is a huge part of dance. That's my answer. I'm sorry, that was a long answer.
No, I appreciate your transparency on it, because I grew up doing ballet, right? It was such an integral part of my life. When I was younger, in my school age years, I would go to dance studios and I did not fit in at all. I was placed in the back. I felt like, and mind you now, I was one of the stronger dancers. I'm placed in the back.
Always are.
My hair couldn't be right for them. It was just, everything was a mess. So my mom had to pull me out, and I honestly had to join a church that did ballet in, like, Queens, that made me feel welcomed. I saw my color, and that's where I really, like, kind of grew and blossomed there, you know? But she realized after 2 studios, like, no, she had to pull me out and find a place where I feel included. And it's interesting because there's this dance shop out in Queens. I just decided to walk in there because sometimes I do dabble thinking about, what if I just, like, start back again, you know? Because there has been such progression, you know, in dance, especially for women of color. There's a lot of work to be done, but there is some progression there. And just going in that dance shop and actually seeing tights of my complexion,
Mocha.
like, there was legit tears in my eyes. Like, tights, my complexion. Leotards, my complexion. It made me like, okay, maybe I can, like, go back to dance. You know, like, maybe I feel finally a little included, you know? So I'm happy you were able to just express that too as well. Just being in the dance community.
Let me tell you, as a parent on this side, and I have a daughter, and I've put her in some, you know, dance, like, she's done ballet, she's done, you know, African gymnastics or whatever. It took such a long time for me to put her in because, you know, I knew I wanted her in an environment where she didn't have to question herself. Where she didn't have to question, you know, who she was and what she represented, and, you know, whether she had to be that, you know, token or everything like that. You know, in her dance school, unfortunately, I wasn't able at the time to find, you know, a Black owned, but literally like 90% of the students were Black. So I was like, everyone around her looks like her. Thankfully, the gymnastics studio are owned by 2 Black sisters, and they are killing it. Like, they are high in competition. It's not like low budget or whatever, like, you know, and it was just very important to me because, you know, I didn't grow up doing dance, but in school, you know, I went to a predominantly white high school, and, you know, being in, like, AP classes, I was either one of one or one of 2 Black people. So even when it's not overt, you know it's there. When you're reading Huck Finn, you know they're just waiting
for you to say something.
I mean? And I applaud your mothers for not only checking in and being like, one, do you want this? Or, fighting for their kids to be like, no, they're not going to be subjected to all of this foolishness that they know exists just because you kind of want better for them. You know what I mean? We're not going to make you have to fight those battles internally and externally just because, you'll appreciate this later on in life. Like, kudos to y'all moms, for real.
I think my mom, one of the reasons that she kept me in that same studio, even throughout my, I think it was like freshman or sophomore year, I stopped going to that studio and I actually started working there. But I think she kept me there because when the change of ownership happened when I was around 12, she saw the difference and she saw how far I could go with dance. And I feel like she also recognized that it was an emotional outlet for me, so she didn't want to steal that from me. And one of the wonderful things that I will say about my dance career is my high school experience was immaculate. Even though I had these few incidences where it was hey, I need you to understand this is not going to work for me because I am a Black girl in this piece and this, I can't do this with my hair, I can't wear this color thing or whatever. Most of 99% of my high school experience as a performing artist and as a dancer was amazing. I was the artist of my graduating class. I loved my high school experience with dance. And so having my dance career, I think really made my mom feel comfortable and confident about my experience with dance and not feeling maybe I need to protect her and shift her environment. It wasn't until I left high school that I started to deal with some of this stuff again when I was in college and stuff like that, and the tail end of it. But her high school experience, I think that really instilled her faith to be it's okay for her to stay in this space. And again, the tail end of me working at that studio and being in that studio. So shout out to Black moms.
Yeah. Shout out to moms. I also now want to know, as an adult now, how do you help other dance educators to make sure about racial inclusion? Because I've seen you've done workshops in the past about this. Because you can't always find these kind of ballet classes where you feel you see your own people.
Yeah.
It doesn't really happen, especially in ballet. So I'm just wondering about your workshops that you've done.
So representation is incredibly important. And I think we always try to act like it's not, but it is. It is. It doesn't matter how you flip the coin, it is. And so as someone who has taken on dance as my profession and have done work in multiple different spaces. So I've worked in nonprofits. I've worked in partnership with the school systems, both in San Diego, when I lived in New York for about 4 years, and also here in Connecticut. I've been exposed to so many different tactics and teaching styles and environments and demographics that I was able to recognize that no matter where I went, there was still a gap. There was still a gap with equity in dance spaces that I was we need to address this. I also recognized that there was a lack of professionalism among the dance community, a lack of professionalism in the dance community. A lot of people become dance teachers just because they were a dancer. They don't go to school and study it. They don't, they don't respect the craft enough to lesson plan, build a curriculum, scaffold information so that their students are progressively getting better, and all these educational, fundamental things that you need to build a strong foundation as a teacher, right? And so a lot of people are actually dance instructors, just regurgitating whatever they learned from someone else instead of being a dance teacher or a dance educator. And so I started to dive into what that meant for me and what that looked like in the longevity of a career, that I just recognized some of the things I did in my early years of teaching just wasn't working. And so I started with lesson planning and building a curriculum and starting to understand terminology and educational important pieces like scaffolding. How do I make sure my kids are getting better, right? This is going to help with retention. This is going to help with making me a better teacher and stronger teacher. And I had a few experiences. At one period of time, I was a preschool teacher because being a dance educator was not filling the gap I needed to financially. It wasn't meeting my needs. And so during the day, I was a preschool teacher, and after school, I was still teaching dance. And learning about benchmarks and things like that started to influence and impact the way that I approached being a dance educator. And one of the things that stood out and that kept coming back into my curriculum was dance history. So when I went to the Great Hartford Academy of the Arts, we were required to take academic dance classes as well as your traditional ballet and modern and different techniques of those two styles of dance. But we learned jazz. We took dance history. We took a dance wellness class, learning about nutrition in our body and all these different kinds of courses that related to being a strong dancer overall, right? And dance history is one of those things that I feel like is like you get lucky if you get to have a dance history class in your career as a dancer. It's really like this gift. So if you study dance at the collegiate level, oh my God, you get to take a dance history class. Or if you go to a performing arts high school the way that I did, where they had a collegiate curriculum, then you learn dance history. So, and it's one of those things that I think is underrated. So I started folding that into my curriculum and influencing a lot of the work that I do based on dance history and recognizing, well, why don't we talk about Black and brown folks that have made great contributions to the dance community? Why don't we talk about that enough? When we learn about ballet and Vaganova technique, we only learn about these old white men and white women that like did all these things and created and sculpted out these different techniques and studies of ballet. But what about the Black girls? Because I know there's a Black and brown girl somewhere that helped create what this is. What about the Black and brown girls that are present in present day doing things in the dance community and as ballet dancers, right? For example, that are not getting the recognition. And so the curriculum and the program that I started that you've probably discovered on my website, it's called Racial Inclusion in Dance. It started as a workshop and then it turned into a coaching program, and it has gone back and forth between both. And as a workshop, essentially I talk about how you can leverage dance history in your dance curriculum to create an equitable space. And it's applicable to all styles of dance. So if you're a ballet teacher, you need to build in your curriculum opportunities to talk about dance history and people of color that have impacted that style of dance. If you're a jazz dancer, same. If you're a modern or contemporary dancer, same. How can we create a curriculum that supports that, and giving even a 5-minute blurb within your class structure where you talk to and expose your students to people of color that are doing work in those spaces or have done work in those spaces.
Right.
And so that's how it started. The first workshop I ever did that was about racial inclusion in a dance space as a professional development workshop was in 2016. And it has since evolved and changed and nuanced, and again has become a coaching program where at one point I was like allowing small groups of dance teachers, 5 to 10 dance teachers, to work with me over a 3-month period. And each month we'd focus on different things, like what is lesson planning for a dance teacher look like, right? What is building the curriculum for your age groups? And how does that apply to dance history? And that was like a 3-month program. And again, I've done it multiple different ways in multiple different environments. Like right now, I've been teaching it as like a 3-hour workshop for a teaching artist hub that's in Connecticut. And they just hire me every so often. And I teach that to dance teachers. And I teach it all consolidated into a 3-hour class. So hour 1 is this, hour 1 is 2, and so on and so forth. And so that's my contribution to the dance community. A lot of the work that I do as a dance educator is not your traditional ballet, jazz, modern classes. Although I do offer those sometimes, I do a lot of classes like that. Like right now, I'm contracted with the school system here, and I teach a dance anatomy class. And I teach classes that work at the intersection of dance and science, and like how we can use dance as a way to help with like education retention for students. And so for my younger grades, it's not anatomy, it's just science and dance and how those two marry together to help them understand science. And for middle schoolers and high schoolers, it's anatomy. And so that kids can understand anatomy and physiology terminology through dance and how it helps with retention. So
I love the way you are able to take different aspects of things that you've known or done or love and somehow make it a profession that can be fulfilling and giving back, you know? Honestly, for a very long time, I did not realize that the tights were supposed to, you know, in ballet, supposed to be an elongation of the leg and just like a continuous. I didn't realize like it was pink because it's supposed to be like white people. Like that's how much that's just the standard. So, you know, in the days of like the Misty Copelands and everything like that, what have you been seeing that's been deviating from the, you know, standard for the better for Black and brown people?
I think that there's a permission that's being given to Black and brown dancers now to like be themselves that I've never seen before over the past maybe 5 years. Like, I can't remember her first name. It's like a faded memory right now. Her last name is De Silva. She's a Brazilian.
Ingrid
Yes,
Silva.
Ingrid De Silva. Beautiful woman. She's a mother. First of all, she's a mother and still a dance professional, which is like, we don't talk about that at all. And like what that means to be a mother and also be a dance professional, and like how difficult it is to be taken seriously as a dance professional in general. But then to add motherhood into that and like how you can make that sustainable is a totally different conversation. But she, and most of her spaces where she shows up as a ballerina, she has her puff, she has her natural hair, she has her poof, and she don't got the baby hairs laid, baby. She just got the puff. She said, what Beyonce said about the baby hairs, baby. She just be great. Like, and I feel like there's a level of like social acceptance that she's getting in the dance community that I've never seen before. That's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. And I just hope that that continues to like be a progression in all genres, right? So now we're seeing it a lot. Ballet's getting the spotlight, but like, what about jazz? What about modern? What about contemporary? What about all these other styles? Like, ballet's getting the spotlight, and it's one of the genres of dance that need it the most. But what about all these other genres of dance? What about musical theater? Why is it that most musical theater performers that are well known are not people of color? Like, what does that mean? And what does that mean for jazz? And what does that mean for the history of jazz? And like how, so all of these different things I recognize are beautiful progress, but I feel like there's so much more to do. There's more. There's always more. There's always more.
Oh yeah, big time. Do you have any advice to any young ladies who are brown or black out here as a dancer trying to further themselves in this career?
This is something I recently learned, and I feel like I wish I could like public service announcement this all over the world to every black and brown young lady that wants to be a dance professional. You don't have to fit the mold. You don't have to fit in the little box that they want to put you in. You really don't, to be successful. And I say that because I spent so much of my career trying to be that when that's not what I was destined to do. I don't know anyone else that does the work that I do. I wouldn't be surprised if there's someone else that does, but I don't know anyone else that like teaches the classes that I teach or teaches like in the way that I approach my coursework or my profession, right? And for a long time, I thought that that was a bad thing. And for a long time, I tried to suppress and figure out, well, everybody else is doing this and they're being successful or they look successful. So I need to go and try to like figure out how to get to that, whatever that is that they're doing. When like all my efforts that I put towards becoming that was not sustainable at all. Like I was miserable the entire time. And I can't tell you how many times I quote unquote quit my dance career because I was trying to become something that I'm not. And so even if it takes you a longer time, this is for the message for these young ladies, even if it takes you a longer time to get to your most authentic self in a way that's successful, take your time and honor that and stick with it. Because for every person that doesn't believe that you'll be successful or thinks you're insane for doing the work that you're doing in the way that you're doing it, there's 2 more people that love what you're doing, that will honor you and will pay you your worth and respect you and put you on a platform that you deserve to be on. It just is gonna take a little more time. And I know that that can feel scary and difficult to explain to people around you, but it's not for them to understand. Like to this day, my dad like doesn't have an understanding of my career and like doesn't know how I could possibly be a dance professional and have a sustainable life and like pay my own rent and like have my car and have the luxuries and the things that I have, and question like my entire like early college career. Like, why did I choose this path? It's not realistic, right? But also recognizing that, like, fun fact that I had mentioned before, like I was in the service. I'm a veteran and I was making more money teaching dance than I ever did in the service.
Interesting.
So that's my message is if it feels like you're destined to do it, if it feels like your God-given gift, if you're a God-facing person or you're the universe destined you to do this or your ancestors are guiding you to be in the dance profession, like follow that. No matter how hard it is, no matter how unique or different you are from your peers, that's what's going to make you successful. Everything that makes you you is gonna make you successful.
Ooh, ooh, ooh. Let me pass around the collection plate right quick because, baby.
That's what I got. That's message.
And that can be applied to like literally any and every facet of life. But I'm sure, especially for creatives, where, especially for Black and brown creatives, where we're like, we don't do that. We do the, you know, the thing that makes sense, the thing that's going to guarantee you a paycheck, you know, whether parents can see it, family can see it, like you gotta be true to you. Amen. Amen.
If I wasn't true to myself, I was literally miserable. Like in the Great Depression. It was bad. Every time I would try to be like, I'm gonna just do something else in my career. I joined the military because I questioned my ability to be successful in the dance field, in the dance profession.
Man.
And served for 4 years and was like miserable the entire time. So that's how much I allowed outside influence to penetrate my thoughts and like belief in myself. Like just, and the amount I've been able to accomplish in like the 6 months I've been out of the service, just solely because I believed in myself and put myself around people who also believe in me. Child, that's another conversation for another day.
I love that for you. It's a muscle that we have to grow. I don't think, you know, we're just born with it. You literally have to exercise that and get there. So even when it was horrible, somewhere, somehow, I'm sure your experiences in the service have served you and you can take something from that and you can use it where it counts. But yes, listen to that intuition, to that gut and follow it. It's going to be hard.
Ain't nobody said it was
it's
easy,
gonna make you happy.
Want it, it's gonna be worth the struggle.
Right.
Nothing good ever come easy. Nothing.
No.
Nothing.
And nothing lasts forever. So.
Very true.
I love it.
Latoya, tell the people where they can find you.
You guys can find me on Instagram at Latoya Nickee, Nickee. That's 2 E's, not IE, not Y. I'm special. You can also find me. You can also find me on YouTube. I have my own sort of talk show, so you guys can check out what I'm blabbing about over there. Same name, Latoya Nickee. Or you can even go on my website, www.latoyanickee.com. All things you'll find me on social media, including Facebook, Latoya Nickee. So easy to find me. It's consistent.
Yes. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Let us know your thoughts, everyone. Definitely give it a like, subscribe, comment. Let us know your thoughts. We hope you all enjoy this episode. Till next time.
Bye, guys.